So we liked it so much, and it seems like people appreciated it more because singing about dragons, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's not gonna touch people in the same way. Everybody has a real relationship to tanks. Everybody's seen it on TV, you know, and I get scared if tanks come up to me. I will get scared. Somebody threatens me with a dragon, yeah, bring on the dragons.
Hey gang, Liam here. Do you like history? Do you like metal? Do you like metal history? Well, then you've struck pay dirt with Sabaton. Melding monstrous music with wartime words, this band further proves that Sweden has got a fucking stronghold on all the good metal in the world. I mean, what does a knucklehead like myself have to bring to the table? Annihilator? Voivod? Celine Dion doing AC/DC covers?
Step your game up!
But enough about that. It's time to grab our history books and get learnt with Sabaton. Forming in 1999, releasing a demo CD called Fist for Fight, and recording what would be Metalizer before the album was put on the shelf. We'll talk about that when we talk about that. Singer Joachim Brone and bassist Par Sundstrom, I completely apologize if I butchered that, went to work on songs for a new album in 2004. They were heavy, but they needed lyrics to fit that heaviness.
The start of the whole thing about Sabaton writing about war history started when we were doing the demo, well, for Primo Victoria in 2004. We were looking for something fitted to the music that was big and important, because that was kind of the feeling we had of the music. And then we were watching the movie Saving Private Ryan, and we said, there we go. Let's write about this, because it's way more interesting than anything we wrote about in the past.
And with that, the last tumbler clicked into place, and out popped Primo Victoria. Writing songs about World War II like Wolfpack and the perma-classic Primo Victoria, more modern tomes about the Gulf and Iraq wars with the ripping Reign of Terror and the pounding Panzer Battalion respectively, and what I believe is their only song about Vietnam, my personal favorite track, The Incendiary, Into the Fire.
Within me the beast starts to roar, now ready to strike. A creature of the night, into the fire. The flame of napalm strike. Sarge down, I'm in charge. Pieces everywhere.
While technically not their first album, Primo Victoria is the album where the lyrics and the music meshed together and the world learned what Sabaton were about. It also contains the first of what will be 3 metal songs. Now, while some Sabaton fans may hate these songs because, well, they admittedly stick out like a sore thumb, what I think? Where's your sense of fun, titwanks? Primo Victoria is a beast from toes to titties. Buy it!
We are back in control. Force them to surrender. Take what is ours. Restore law and order. Back in control.
With the band now finding their sound, it was time to nurture it, and nurture it they did with Attero Dominatus, branching out to include topics besides the Second World War and trading in the Judas Priest leather worship for a paramilitary makeover, with white camo and Joachim rocking his patented steel plate vest. But it wasn't just the band's frock that had improved. With burners like We Burn, atmospheric anthems like the tribute to the terrors that is trench warfare itself, Angel's Calling, and the best metal song out of the 3, Metal Crew, Kiss My Ass, I'm Right, Attero Dominatus takes what made Primo Victoria awesome and doubles it. Best track? By God, it's gonna have to be In the Name of God, which rips into religious terrorism and spits out the bones.
Stand up and show me your face. Suicidal in a trance, a religious army. Find a long-time uniform and hide in the crowd. Call it holy, call it just, authorize by heaven.
If I I do have one gripe with this album. It would have to be the song Rise of Evil. I've never really been one to roll with the lengthier tracks, but it was this song, along with songs like Back in Control and Counter-Strike, that started the whole Sabaton are Nazi sympathizers who glorify war. Yeah, because titles like Rise of Evil are just brimming with sympathy, you fucking idiot.
It is a controversial subject. It's about how Adolf Hitler came to power. And let's just say the promoters in especially Germany weren't really looking forward to us performing that song live. However, I mean, as soon as we explained to them that, you know, we are a band that sings about military history, controversial subjects will arise from time to time. However, we don't ever do any kind of political or religious propaganda. And this song is simply about how Adolf Hitler came to power.
Well, it's not pro-Nazi.
It's history. The shit happened, and all Sabaton are doing is singing about it. But if you still believe that they are Nazi sympathizers who glorify the atrocities of war, I want you to pause, de-fucking clench, so I can shove this apple up your Attero Dominatus just dominates. Buy it or... you know.
Once we lived in harmony, but it seems so distant now. Even though it was so long ago, we all used to play and dead, working hard from dawn to...
Alright. What's the deal with Metalizer? Yeah, it's my Jerry Seinfeld impression. I'm a YouTuber, not a voice actor. When the band signed with label Underground Symphony, they intended for this to be the band's debut album in 2002. However, due to a bunch of internal shit and a bunch of playing the waiting game, it was just straight up abandoned until they struck a deal to release it in 2007. And in my humble opinion, it should have just stayed abandoned. While they did find their sound on the music front, on the lyric front, it just wasn't there. And whether you want to admit it or not, Sabaton's lyrics are the ultimate make or break for if their music is good. Best track? Sorry to say, folks, there isn't one on here. This album is ignored usually for a reason. Next.
But a kingdom that has once been destroyed can never come again into being, nor can the dead ever be brought back to life.
Now we're back on solid ground. The Art of War is just the first of what will soon be an incredible stream of theme albums. Not concept albums, because concept albums have a story. Using Sun Tzu's incredible book, The Art of War is the connective tissue, the band connects battles from World Wars I and II to chapters of the book. And while the music is as awesome as it's ever been, those with a good ear will notice times when the band is, how do I put this? Inspired.
Unaware of oppression, so be marching straight to their doom.
Hell, if we cataloged every time a Tony Iommi riff was ganged to this video, it would be 500 hours long. Also, a side note, the little bit at the end, a secret, hilarious. It's also worth mentioning that the rearmed version of this album includes the bitchin' anthem, Swedish Pagans. And if you know your Sabaton memes, you know about Swedish Pagans.
I'm back. I don't know what it is, but it makes me happy.
I know that Joachim's favorite is actually Swedish Pagans, but...
The Art of War is a masterpiece, and while you can listen to it in pieces if you want the full effect, park your pooper and listen to it front to back. The best track? Well, that's gonna have to go to the first Sabaton track I ever heard, the Ode to the Battle of Passchendaele, The Price of a Mile.
What's the price of a mile? Thousands of feet march to the beat. It's an army on the march. Long way from home. Pay the price in young man's life. Thousands of feet march to...
If you need a spiel to get you to pick this album up, well, I'm not gonna give it to you, because in the words of Sun Tzu himself, the greatest victory is that which requires no battle. Next.
So we have been focusing a lot on World War II, World War I. Some of the reasons behind this is that we find more facts. It's easier to find and stay true to facts, and we don't need to go to myths and legends and stories that were never written down even.
Now it's no secret that the band are huge fans of World War II. While they have written songs and hell even complete albums about other wars, their biggest source of inspiration comes from World War II, and Coat of Arms is the ultimate love letter to it. With the exception of Metal Ripper, the weakest of the metal tracks, and you know I'm right, every single song is about a battle, event, or person that corresponds with the Second World War. From the Battle of Midway in Midway, the Siege of Bastogne in the soaring Screaming Eagles, and the awesome Aces in Exile talking about the Battle of Britain and all those who fought in it, even name-dropping my beloved country in one of its choruses. Makes the patriot in me happy. However, there is one lone turd in this bowl of sangria, and you can hate me all you want for saying this, but I just don't like White Death. Don't get me wrong, the story behind White Death is fucking fantastic, and I urge you to learn about how badass Simo Haya was, but his legacy could have used a better soundtrack than this. Coat of Arms is a masterpiece, and until you buy it, you're in my sights.
Going back in time to the time of Swedish Empire was a bit challenging, and the facts, so to say, that we read about in some of the books might not be true at all. We needed to find an historian to help us, to advise us with this job, to do it properly.
I'm gonna have to be real with you people. At first, I wasn't the biggest fan of Carolus Rex. At first, I will admit it was a long road from garbage bin to mantelpiece for me with this record, but slowly, and by degrees, every single song found its way onto my iPod, and it now ranks in my top 3 Sabaton albums. Now this album is about Swedish history, and I know what you're thinking. Oh, the whole band is Swedish. Is this going to be them jerking off about how great their country is? Actually, no. It's about the rise and fall of the Swedish Empire under Gustavus Adolphus and Carolus Rex himself, even penning songs about one of their biggest military defeats with Poltava. Carolus Rex is a diamond in the jewel case that is the Sabaton discography, but like many diamonds, it didn't come into being without a little bit of pressure. Pressure like having to record in English and a Swedish version of this record, all culminating in the exit of every single band member that wasn't Joakim and Par.
Then we listened to it, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's awesome! Let's do the whole album in Swedish," and that seemed like a great idea.
It was a great idea.
Yeah, until you had realized you had to write the lyrics twice, and you have to record with all the choirs and everything in time planned for only doing it in one language. Let's just say there was tumultuous times regarding everything from the recording to, we switched band members, quite a few at that time as well. So I don't remember that recording very fondly, and that's usually a good sign.
But
now, a lot of Sabaton fans like to rank Carolus Rex as the best album that Sabaton's ever made, but I humbly disagree. And why is that? This beast of an album. Now I'm gonna be honest with you, my love of Heroes is a little bit biased, as it is the first album to come out since I became a fan of the band. But the tunes, Ditching the larger scopes of their earlier report, the band instead opted to craft songs about individuals whose stories are so fantastic that talking about every single one of them would increase this video's runtime tenfold, and the music just carries those songs the extra mile that they did not need to cross. With riffs catchier than crabs and choruses so epic you have to hold on to something, lest you be swept up into heavy metal Valhalla with no way of getting back. Best track? Night Witches. Hey Hollywood, you want your ultimate girl power movie? How about a movie about a bunch of Russian broads with the ovaries to get into outdated farming planes and conduct bombing runs, obtaining a nickname that would strike fear into the heart of German soldiers, huh? Skip around. Every single song on this record rips. Even the Ballad of Bull, which I initially did not like, is an amazing song that had no business being the victim of my scorn. Heroes, my all-time favorite Sabaton album. Listen to it or lose my respect. I'm gonna be real with y'all once again. At this point in time, I was burnt out with Sabaton. Apparently you can listen to a band too much. I didn't even know this album came out. That's how little I was listening to them. Until one day I got a phone call from my dad and he said, "Have you heard of this band called Sabaton?" Almost immediately, all the great memories of listening to this band came flooding back, and I went to the well for more. And when I cranked that bucket up, inside it was The Last Stand, an album that I had no business ignoring. Well, it did start off lackluster with Sparta, a great track, just not a great opening track. When it kicked into Last Dying Breath, I was all fucking in.
Last dying breath.
Taking the theme of famous last stands in history, be it British soldiers holding down the fort against 3,000 to 4,000 Zulus in Rorke's Drift, the last stand of the samurai in Shirayama, the band creates anthem after ass-pounding anthem, honoring the bravery of every single man who fought in those last stands. Best track? For me, that's gonna have to be the last one, The Last Battle.
And it's the end of the life of the final journey, enemies leave in the past. And it's American troops and the German army joining together at last. One lost fight into the throes of the...
The Last Stand is a phenomenal album that I will kick myself for the rest of my life for not listening to earlier, and I will kick you if you don't do the same.
You remember when we first met?
I do.
And when was that?
It was in Berlin a few years ago.
Yeah, and it was when I was writing and hosting the channel The Great War that was about the First World War.
Yeah, and you invited me to come over because we had a couple of songs about the Great War.
Now, why am I talking about this right now?
I guess you're leading this into that we kept going on the path of the Great War. Well, we obviously did a whole album about it.
And what is that album called?
The Great War.
With my love of Sabaton back in full swing, when I heard they were making a new record, I was harder than Chinese algebra. And when I heard it was gonna be about the First World War, well, that just shot my crank into the stratosphere. One of my all-time favorite wars to research was getting an album by one of my all-time favorite bands, and I was ready to learn more. And when it dropped, it did not disappoint. Be it the regular or the history version, this album embodies all the horror and heroism the First World War had to offer in musical form. Once again paying tribute to my beloved Canada by talking about one of its greatest war heroes. A First Nation sniper with 378 confirmed kills who would go into German trenches just to cut off pieces of their uniform as an intimidation tactic. Francis Pegamagabo in A Ghost in the Trenches. Hey, Sabaton, if you're watching, if you ever do decide to make another song about World War I, can it be about the Battle of Vimy Ridge? Please? I'm just a girl with a dream. The Great War is great. Yes, I did just say that. Hell, I even caught the band on their tour for the album, and I cannot wait for the next one, whatever it may be about. Well, that does it for this Sabaton Retrospective, one of the most consistent and educating bands I've ever had the honor of listening to. Once again, thank you for sitting with me, and until next time, I'm Liam Winfield. Keep on rockin'.
Seriously? My Little Pony? On a Sabaton concert? You guys are fucking crazy.